Today I'd like to talk about the second part of right speech. The first is not lying. We talked about this in a previous video. And the third one will be no nonsense speech. But this one is about no angry speech. It's often translated as no harsh speech, but we would prefer to say it slightly differently, no angry speech. And that's because of a misunderstanding that is very common with regard to right speech and this precept. And actually that extends to all of Buddhism in general, which is that this precept of no harsh speech or no angry speech means that you're not allowed to say anything that others don't like to hear, that you're only allowed to say things that are agreeable and pleasant for other people to hear. So this is not correct, and the reason for this is quite easy to see. If you have a child and the child is misbehaving, being rude or being disrespectful or refusing to help to clean up the dishes or whatever, you have to discipline him. You have to tell him that what he's doing is not acceptable. And sometimes you might end up really having to speak harshly to make him understand so that he won't repeat the mistake, that he won't repeat what he's doing wrong. But if you were not to do this, you would not be a good parent. So it's important to understand sometimes, out of compassion for other people, out of concern and care for their well-being, we need sometimes to point out to them, to tell them things that are difficult to hear, that are unpleasant to hear, but that will serve them, that will help them to change, to correct themselves if they listen. Just as for us, if we want to be a student of Dhamma and correct ourselves, and we are lucky enough to have a teacher who can point out to us when we do wrong, we are happy to have somebody who will point these out to us, who will tell us things that they might be difficult or unpleasant for us to hear, but we need to hear them because we need to be able to correct ourselves and we need to see what our faults are in order to correct ourselves. So to come back to what this aspect of right speech really means, it's not that you're not allowed to say anything harsh or to say anything that is disagreeable for others to hear. What it does mean is that you are not allowed to speak out of anger. You're not allowed to speak just as an angry reaction to something that somebody has said, or to speak out of ill will, out of the intention to hurt others. This is a very different thing, and it involves being attentive to our own emotion, to our own mind, and how our own mind reacts to what other people say and what they do. Not to allow it to react in anger, and especially to speak in anger. It's possible for somebody to speak quite harshly out of the desire to correct somebody's behavior, but inside to be completely free of anger. The fact that you're reprimanding somebody for their behavior does not have to imply that you're angry with them. We are taught tolerance, we are taught not to blame, to be patient, to be compassionate towards everybody, regardless of what they do. To really understand that we cannot change what somebody else thinks or what somebody else says. All that we can be responsible for is our own mind and our own words and our own actions. So we are not required to approve everything that everybody does in the world, but at the same time, we can't change others. So for example, if somebody says bad words, insult, whether it's somewhere else in the world at some moment that you can't see and that you don't hear, or if it's somebody saying bad words and insults right to your face, it's the same. It's this person, this being, speaking his own words, thinking his own thoughts, with his own mind. So we have no cause to be angry with him whatsoever. We have only cause to be compassionate for him. If somebody's behavior is unacceptable and we are in a position where it's appropriate to talk to them about it and let them know that it's unacceptable, we can choose to tell him that his behavior is unacceptable for his own sake in order that he can correct it, but not out of anger. So that is what this aspect of right speech means.